Hello! At this point, I'm sure you know how these iceberg videos work, but if you don't, I'll give you a short explanation. We here at the NJGW channel have made an iceberg delving into all the facets of Robot Wars, from the obvious to the truly strange, and tier by tier, we'll go over what each entry refers to. A full copy of the iceberg can be found in the description. We've got a lot of ground to cover, and so let's get right to it. Sit back and enjoy as we take you through the Robot Wars iceberg.
Tornado cheated. Tornado cheated is probably among the most commonly used phrases in the history of the Robot Wars fandom. Ever since the airing of the Sixth Wars Grand Final, the validity of Tornado's anti-crusher cage has been hotly debated. Arguments such as the cage offering too much of a defensive mentality, or it being too large for the pit, have often been used. In reality, the cage was cleared by the producers and explained by Judge Noel Sharkey on screen. Beyond the letter of the law, however, there existed a strong feeling, especially among the fervent fans of Razor, one of the show's most beloved bots, that the cage was against the spirit of the show and was too blatant of an attempt on Tornado's part to not engage head-to-head with Razor. While sections of fans are now willing to concede that Tornado at the very least broke no rules with the cage, almost 20 years on, the battle remains probably the most hotly contested in robot combat history. Simpsons, then Fresh Prince, then Robot Wars. Much like Tornado cheated, The Simpsons, then Fresh Prince, then Robot Wars is probably one of the most commonly used phrases whenever British people of a certain age reminisce about the show. During season 5 and 6, BBC Two's Friday evening slot would see The Simpsons air at 6 PM, followed by The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air at 6:20, and Robot Wars rounding off the run from 6:45 to 7:30. This sequence didn't always run, such as on the 7th of February 2003, when Heat L of Series 6 found itself shunted for the snooker, not for the first time, but it has been fondly remembered by viewers for the structure and quality it provided at the end of the working week. Robot Wars merchandise. Robot Wars in its peak inspired a great range of merchandise. For those seeking to enjoy the wars at home, there were videos and DVDs such as The First Great War and the Ultimate Warrior collection. Those interested in the written world had an embarrassment of riches. 2 separate runs of the Robot Wars magazines and a series of books from the technical manual to the Ultimate Guide, containing almost anything a dedicated fan could want to know. Although, accuracy can never quite be fully guaranteed. For those seeking to recreate Robot Wars at home, there were numerous means. The battle cards, the board game, a range of toys from the tiny mini-bots to the huge remote-controlled toys. And of course, the Robot Wars video games available on handhelds, home consoles and PC. While the reboot never achieved the popularity of the classic series, it nevertheless inspired its own merchandise, such as the Build Your Own Bot and official handbook titles, the Hexbug toys and the home video releases of the entire reboot series. No matter people's thoughts on the show, for a period of time a lot of shops would host some form of Robot Wars merchandise. Ant Pritchard Media Storm. After losing their battle against Cherub in Heat 2 of Series 9, a fight which determined who would go on to face Eruption in the Heat Final, team captain of Behemoth, Ant Pritchard, stormed off set when the decision in Cherub's favour was read. As Ant would explain on screen, his actions were driven by anger at his team, who had chosen to use Behemoth's grabber attachment for the crucial battle, rather than opting for what he felt was a guaranteed win with the base scoop design. However, this piece of context would be omitted when the clip went viral on social media sites such as Twitter and Reddit, while tabloids like The Sun, The Telegraph, and the Daily Mail reported the incident as a sore loser storming off after losing to a group of kids, a statement which drove the Robot Wars Twitter account to issue its own correction. Unfortunately, this likely proved to be the greatest exposure of the reboot's existence to most of the British public. Android Love. Android Love is one of the most infamous products to bear the Robot Wars logo. Released in December 2000 and attributed to Sakillot and Robobabe, the Eurodance single, drawing heavily on Donna Summer's disco classic I Feel Love, and themes from the show's soundtrack, features the titular Robo-Babe, the Love Droid, offering android love in the choruses. While the verses are taken up by the kind of rapid-fire dance rap best left in the 1990s, the single came with a music video, featuring the Robo-Babes and Sakil himself. Peaking at number 51 on the charts, the song was poorly received at the time. However, it's garnered something of an ironic appreciation among fans since, and has been featured on the show's Italian dub, the comedy Phoenix Nights, and was also used frequently on live events hosted by roaming robots during the early and mid-2010s. Armamentability. Armament, per the Cambridge Dictionary, refers to weapons or military equipment. In the language of Jonathan Pierce, armament is basically anything the body's covered in. This is but one of the many verbal eccentricities that Pierce would indulge in as a commentator, such as his love of extended rhymes like "a slice is nice," twice, invented words like flippability, convoluted acronyms like CCC, meaning crushability creates chaos, of course, or the even more obvious FFFF, the flipping, fantastic, final thriller. That should be a T, Jonathan. Not to mention his tendency to make a retired joke every time a machine's wheel fell off. Nevertheless, it's all part of what made him such an integral part of the show. International Robot Wars. Given the widespread popularity of robot combat shows in the early 2000s, it was perhaps inevitable that Robot Wars would inspire spin-offs in other countries too. In America, 2 spin-offs would be launched. Robot Wars Extreme Warriors saw 2 seasons aired on TNN, and featured many builders and bots active on BattleBots and Robotica, with Robotica champions Panzer winning both seasons. A spin-off of Extreme Warriors tailored towards the younger audiences, Nickelodeon Robot Wars, would receive a season also, with Tyrannobot winning the championship. Europe would also receive its share of spin-offs. 2 seasons of Dutch Robot Wars would air, with many of the teams such as Tough as Nails and Gravity later appearing in the UK series. Slicer would win the first season, with Third World Championship participants and future BattleBots alumnus Pulverizer winning the second. In Germany, a single series of German Robot Wars would air, with Black Hole winning the series.
The People's Challenge. The People's Challenge was an unused event from the first series of Robot Wars Extreme, in which the viewing public were surveyed by Mentorn to decide a one-off battle, effectively a chance to see a fight between 2 of the show's titans that otherwise never encountered each other. In perhaps the least surprising turn of events ever, the winning matchup was Razor vs Hypnodisc, but with Extreme 1 filming at the same time as Series 5, in which both robots were making deep campaigns with clear shots at the title, both declined the battle, unwilling to risk their title shots on a side competition. British robots in BattleBots. Plenty of Robot Wars alumni would make appearances in BattleBots one way or another. Razor would appear in Series 3 form in the pre-Comedy Central live events where it won a giant nut for a rumble, and famously lost to Tazbot. Mortis, Panic Attack and Suicidal Tendencies would fight in Season 2.0 of the show, as would Bigger Brother, who famously defeated Mauler. The Grim Reaper would also make an appearance in Season 5.0. Kilohertz also enjoyed far more success in America than it did in the UK, to the degree that it is probably better recognised as a BattleBots machine that also appeared on Robot Wars. A breakdown in relations between the 2 shows would lead to a ban on Robot Wars machines appearing in BattleBots, and vice versa. Some teams like Behemoth and Panic Attack would bring entirely new machines in the form of Radioactive and Scallywag, while others would simply be repainted. Bigger Brother appeared in yellow floral garb as Little Sister, while Danton Kia would take the form of Spitfire, though Spitfire technically made it to TV first. With the second death of Robot Wars, it's largely back to business as usual. Apollo nearly made it to US TV screens in the form of Orion before COVID got in the way, and Aftershock has made several attempts to get on, but has thus far been unsuccessful, probably due to the high quantity of domestic birds. Series 2 Pinball Controversy. Series 2's semi-finals used pinball for the trial round in both episodes and managed to stir up some controversy along the way, mainly revolving around Mortis. As one of the best robots of the first two series, Mortis received a lot of hype from the producers, but they also started framing it as a heel, largely due to the amount of money that had been pumped into it. This reached a head in Series 2's semi-finals, as Mortis' pinball run was cut short by an arena spike spearing one of the machine's tracks. The spikes weren't supposed to be active during the pinball, and as a result, Mortis would be unfairly eliminated. Attempting to make it up to the team, Mentorn allowed them to run again, but driver Rob Knight refused to take the wheel. Still, Arthur Chilcott was able to steer Mortis to a high enough score to go through, resulting in a controversial elimination for Napalm. Still, Rob refused to drive Mortis again in the arena battles, and it was quickly eliminated by Panic Attack. Mentorn would then edit the show and write Jonathan Pierce's scripts to frame the Mortis team as the villains, getting other teams to cheer for their elimination in the pits, and claiming that they demanded the second go at the pinball, leading to the Series 2 Grudge Match special, where Napalm were given a shot to avenge themselves, and lost on account of being Napalm. Gentleman's Agreement. Particularly infamous meme within the fandom, Series 4 Heat B's credits featured Razor Team Captain Ian Lewis ranting to the camera about an unspoken gentleman's agreement between Roboteers to not cause too much damage to each other, following a decisive and destructive loss to Pussycat, in which the Gloucester machine continued to attack well after Razor had lost controlled movement, resulting in the destruction of an expensive speed controller. Fans argued that this was hypocritical, as Razor had intentionally pulled Millie Ambug's wheels off one by one during the second round, while the Cold Fusion team couldn't be sure that Razor was dead with its wheels still spinning. This was certainly the angle the show itself took when it used the event as part of the kayfabe for their rematch in Extreme 1, though it's worth noting that the damage to Millie was to the much cheaper wheels. Still, like most Roboteer beef, the grudge seemed to last hours or days at most. By the time of their rematch in Extreme 1, Ian smiled and applauded Pussycat as it defeated Razor for a second time, and the request for another rematch was far more a respectful joke than bitterness. Storm 2 Controversy. Shortly after the airing of Series 7, Team Storm captain Ed Hoppit would make a series of posts online declaring that Storm 2 had been the rightful winner of Series 7, and that he had been cheated out of victory by Mentorn, whom had a personal grudge against him for the unforgivable crime of bringing a Rambot to their show. Per Hoppit's version of events, this stretched back to Extreme 2, where Storm 2's victory in the New Blood Championship led them to institute the active weapon rule for Series 7. Furthermore, he alleged that they had tried to disqualify him on bogus grounds after his win over Firestorm 5, raised the pit for Tornado in their grand final bout to allow the champ a better shot at winning, and had intentionally obfuscated the damage to Typhoon 2 in order to give it the crown. In the long hiatus, the claims were taken up by the fandom and became the established narrative for over a decade. With the attention brought to the sport by the reboot, however, the claims came under increased scrutiny. Other Roboteers would not co-sign his claims, and fans noticed more innocent explanations for the alleged slights. Notably, the decision to raise the pit for Tornado became obvious after it was noticed that RefBot had triggered it in the first place, hardly a proper way for the champion to lose. Consequently, very few fans still believe Hoppit's side of the story.
101 Curse. During his series of live reaction videos on the Third Wars, Robot Combat YouTuber Mr. Psycho 2 noted that 101's opponents had a high propensity to break down or otherwise experience bad luck against 101. In their heat, Overkill broke down, Centurion got stuck, and King Buxton burned itself out. In the semi-finals, Scutter's Revenge simply stopped moving, and while 101 ultimately lost to Hypnodisc, the legendary spinner never revved up to its full speed, and the battle was nail-bitingly close. The first to require the judges to enter the arena and inspect the bots. The curse was seemingly confirmed in the first World Championships, when 101 was almost pitted by Panic Attack, only for Kim Davies, one of the show's most acclaimed drivers, to drive his machine into the pit. Series 4 would be relatively curse-free, with 101 winning or losing its bouts in a fairly straightforward manner, but it would get one last gasp in Series 5, where 101 was ultimately totaled by Fluffy, a robot that would go on to be legendary for its inability to make progress in the tournament due to tremendous reliability issues. It's almost like it was cursed.
Danby Curse. If 101 is the most legendarily cursed robot, then Craig Danby is the most legendarily cursed roboteer. Danby's poor luck has transcended Robot Wars, but it's undoubtedly the UK show where he had the worst of it. Beginning with his featherweight Deadline getting no airtime in Series 2, Craig would consistently fail to make it to TV screens, due to his bots not getting selected, or in the case of Tanto, being selected only as a reserve, or the cancellation of events as befell super heavyweight entry Toxin. This extended to one of Robot Wars' most legendary unaired fights, where Danby's bot TX108 won a Wildcard Warriors bout against Hypnodisc that was deemed too dull to air. When he did make it to air, he did not fare well. Featherweight entry Gianto was not ready in time for Series 7 and was replaced with a 3kg Kitbot, which fared predictably badly. The finished product had little joy in Series 7, losing drive on one side immediately before being counted out. Craig would finally make it to TV proper with a heavyweight in Series 8, with Foxic. The robot was painfully slow, struggled to turn, and would feature in one of the most boring fights in the show's history against MR Speed Squared. Foxic would return the next series, starting off strong, only to be eliminated by the floor flipper when the Streamec failed to work. Craig would return in Series 10 as part of brother Chris's team with Apex, only for Apex to violently explode against a barely functioning traction. I'm not a superstitious man, but I would not be shocked if someone really did curse Craig all those years ago.
Robot Wars revealed. Perhaps the biggest piece of Robot Wars lost media is the lost spin-off series Robot Wars Revealed. First brought to attention to the community by Simon Harrison in 2018, Robot Wars Revealed was a special show that ran for only 14 episodes. The episodes centered around the behind-the-scenes making of the Series 2 heats and included how certain competitors were built and the setting up of the trial events. Notably, the series was hosted by pit reporter Philippa Forrester rather than regular presenter Craig Charles. As of this video, only 2 episodes of Robot Wars Revealed have surfaced online, these being the behind-the-scenes looks at Heat G and Heat I. The other 12 episodes remain lost. As the series only aired on BBC Choice and the limited number of viewers on the channel at the time, the chances of the entire series being found are very slim. Will we ever get to see these lost episodes? Only time will tell. Who knows, maybe someone out there has them taped on a dusty VHS stored in the attic. Robot Wars bots in other shows. You might think that the competitors on Robot Wars were only ever seen on said show, after all, that is what the robots were originally made for. However, some robots, well known or lesser known, have made appearances in other non-robot combat TV shows from time to time. Perhaps the most well-known instance of this is in the sitcom Spaced, specifically the episode Metal. The entire plot of the episode revolves around Robot Wars, and in one scene of an underground robot fight, a few faces from Robot Wars make a cameo. This included the likes of King B3, Plunderbird 4, Vertebrat, Cerberus and Hard Cheese. Another example is The Apprentice, where a battle between Ripper and Can Opener took place, being driven by some businesswomen as a reward for selling robots to a market. But the most bizarre has to be in The Sopranos, where the character Janice watches Robot Wars on television. Interestingly, the robots appearing were the lesser known Aura and Eloise from Series 2. Robot Wars and The Sopranos? Not a combination I would have expected. The Sentinel had a person inside. You all remember the Sentinel, right? That big giant spy can that appeared in the Series 2 Gauntlet and was only ever seen in Series 2. Interestingly, the Sentinel was merely a JCB digger dressed up to look robotic. Even more interesting is that there was actually someone inside the Sentinel operating it while Gauntlet runs were in progress, which marks the only time someone was actually in the arena during robot activation. So, if your robot was ever crossed the spot in the next round due to a short Gauntlet run, the guy in the Sentinel is probably who you want to speak with. I mean, he controlled what robots went out and went through. US Robot Wars. US Robot Wars is the term used for 4 competitions held in San Francisco between 1994 and 1997, commonly recognised as the beginning of robot combat as we know it, and the inspiration for the UK show. Created by Mark Thorpe, these competitions were very different from what was seen in the British Robot Wars, as there were multiple tournaments taking place in each competition, from lightweights to middleweights to heavyweights. One of these competitions, the 1996 event, was even released on VHS, exposing the UK audience to the origin of Robot Wars. A lot of famous robots would make their first appearances during this time: Tazbot, Vlad the Impaler, Biohazard, Mauler, the Master, and La Machine, just to name a few. Shove and Dozer. Did you know that there were an additional 2 house robots that were never seen on Robot Wars? The first of these is Shove, a large 4-wheeled scoop-wielding robot built at the same time as the other house robots in Series 1. The concept of Shove was to be used during qualifiers and filming to push beaten robots back to the arena entrances if they couldn't make it out themselves, as a sort of clean-up bot. Shove was used from Series 1 to 3, as well as the Series 4 qualifiers, as it was easier to transport between locations than RefBot. Shove was then replaced by Dozer for Series 5 to 7. Dozer was almost identical to Shove, but had wheel guards, a taller body and a smaller scoop. Dozer was used for the Series 5 qualifiers and for clearing up drop zone debris in Series 6 and 7. As it turns out, Dozer was actually the fastest house robot built due to its 4 wheels being powered by E-Tech motors. Yeah, Dozer was even faster than Growler. Both robots were based on the original concept art for Shunt, a drawing that can be seen in the Robot Wars Fun Facts, and the innards of Dozer even appeared in the Ultimate Warrior Collection Sir Killbot and the House Robots DVD. Reshot fights. On a few occasions, rematches of certain battles have taken place, either due to problems during the filming of the battles, or producers not being happy with the results. The battle between Mortis and Panic Attack from the Series 4 War of Independence was fought twice, due to the first battle causing a disagreement with the judges and producers. While the judges voted for Mortis to go through, the producer requested for Panic Attack to advance instead. The argument led to the fight being filmed a second time, and Mortis won again, leaving the producers no choice but to let Mortis advance. The two fights were edited into one for the TV broadcast. Also in Series 4, the semi-final battle between Chaos 2 and Tornado was shot 3 times. The first battle was stopped because the arena wall had been damaged. The second battle also had to be stopped as both machines had their drivetrains broken by an attack from Shunt. The third and final fight was the one seen on TV. We'll also give a mention to Chaos 2 vs Smithy from Series 5, where the rematch was actually acknowledged and shown on TV. The first fight ended because both robots were immobilised at the same time, and the rematch ended with Chaos 2 flipping Smithy out of the arena. 101 didn't cost £1 and a penny. 101 is a cool little robot, simple in design, and possibly cursed as mentioned earlier, but one that people still remember to this day. The reason for this is because it only took a measly £1 and 1 penny to build. Except that isn't actually true. The name 101 actually refers to the robot's length, 101 centimeters, and also team member Amy Franklin's then favourite movie, 101 Dalmatians. Heck, 101 even sported a Dalmatian style paint job in the side events of Series 4 if that wasn't a giveaway. In reality, 101 cost nowhere near £1 and 1 penny to build. It actually cost around £12 to build. 101's low build cost was because its parts were actually salvaged from the team's previous entry RoboDoc, which, on the contrary, cost £1,000 to build. But, and 101 was the more successful of the two robots. I guess less really is more.
Iron Man. Comfortably the height of an average human, this colossal competitor measured 1 metre by 1.5 metres at its base. Intended for the Walker battles during Series 3 of the show, Iron Man was humanoid by design, using a large beer barrel as an upper torso and spiked pickaxes for arms. Although no official weight is known, it may well have exceeded the then 136 kg weight limit for walking robots. Builder Mike Parry stated producers rejected it for its intimidating appearance, but despite the weight limit for walkers rising to 200 kilos in later series, Iron Man was never seen again. Mutant Mousetrap. Mutant Mousetrap was the intended successor to Series 4 semi-finalist Mousetrap, boasting a 10,000 RPM spinning drum to replace the guillotine blade, upgraded armour, and weapon power in excess of Hypnodisc. Who knows what potential lay within the successor to a former series semi-finalist. Sadly, no images of Mutant Mousetrap have survived the test of time, but the thought of a formerly modest competitor possibly evolving into one of the fiercest spinners in the classic era leaves a lot to the imagination for what could have been. Anthrax. Reboot competitor and former wildcard warrior Draven actually competed under the name Anthrax in the first series of Robot Wars Extreme. In the BBC Choice airing of this episode, this is even reflected in Jonathan Pierce's commentary, so why the change? Well, in the time between BBC Choice and BBC Two's airings of the episode, the US experienced anthrax attacks, which led to a number of deaths around the country. The name was therefore changed to Draven, and the episode was edited and redubbed as a result. Due to the rarity of digital boxes in households at the time, the BBC Choice airing of this battle is considered lost media to this day. Ansgar was the first German champion. Though never actually scoring a win during the aforementioned German series of Robot Wars, the Ansgar team consider themselves the very first German champions of the show. This is due to their participation in the German melee seen during Robot Wars Extreme. Ansgar were victorious over Flensburger Power, Golem and Nasty Warrior, and as such qualified for the second World Championship. The German melee followed a failed first attempt to host a German series a year prior. These 4 robots were the only applicants, and thus a full series was reduced to a single 4-way battle. If considered a series winner, this would make Ansgar the only title holder with more losses than wins to its name. Foreign dubs. As Robot Wars grew in popularity, dubs were created to accommodate international audiences. In Italy, unique segments were filmed with presenter Andrea Lucetta, and in Sweden, co-presenter Mick Dubois interviewed teams and personalities behind the scenes during Extreme 1. Yet had the teams kayfabe that it was Series 4, notable with Team II, where Arnold A's new act was glossed over completely. Conducted in English, these interviews were omitted from any BBC airing of the show. A US dub of Series 4 called Grand Champions featured professional wrestler Chyna, and in 2018, Discovery Science picked up the reboot series. However, Dara, Angela and even Jonathan Pierce were totally replaced by American sports reporter Bill Seward, much to the dismay of the show's fans. Robot Wars also had dubs for a handful of European and South Asian countries, with some producing special content and others even renaming the show as a whole. Frostbite's controversial testing videos. Frostbite's stints in Robot Wars were short and sweet, written off after its encounters with Supernova. What's less known about the robot is a brief video showing the team testing Frostbite's spinning weapon inside a classroom. Now, typically recorded weapon tests are performed with a fixed camera and the weapon operator at the safe distance. Now, this wouldn't be on the list if this was a remotely safe testing video now, would it? Team members were present in the same room as their heavyweight robot as it spun up to speed and damaged a table on impact. While Frostbite was far from the most damaging spinner in the show's history, safety when building simply cannot be overstated at any weight class. If anything had gone wrong in this now deleted video, the consequences could have been severe and put the series, show and UK scene in jeopardy. The 8th Seed Curse. Since the introduction of seeded robots in Series 4, not a single competitor seeded 8th in the competition made it out of their heat. Former semi-finalist Mace fell short with Gemini in the 4th Wars, thanks to a dominating debut from future champions Tornado. Stegosaurus finished 3rd overall in Series 3, and Steg 2 was a worthy successor in Series 4, yet 3 Segs to Heaven fell in the heat final to a much improved bigger brother in Series 5. Former champion Panic Attack became the final machine to occupy the 8th seed in both Series 6 and 7, suffering a brutal loss to Terahertz, followed by a surprise second round exit to Tough as Nails in their final heat campaign.
Roger Plant House Robot Beef. After the retirement of Robot Wars icon Wheelie Big Cheese in Series 5, many were left to wonder why the legendary robot never returned. This largely came down to a lack of finance, but Roger Plant in particular was never shy with scathing remarks towards the house robots and their drivers, having originally built Wheelie Big Cheese to take down Sir Killalot without knowing its true weight. Plant estimates that he would spend £5,000 on each series of Robot Wars, and after fundamental disagreements with the lack of payouts from the show, he took to early retirement. Robots using illegal pressures. On the topic of Wheelie Big Cheese being unable to flip Sir Killalot in Series 4, many are left to wonder what would have happened if the mysteriously much stronger Cheese of Series 5 made an attempt. Although no proof has been drawn, Roboteers often speculated that Wheelie Big Cheese's one-of-a-kind power is down to the use of illegal gas pressures, particularly after inspecting the RAM, which still exists to this day. It's also worth noting that changes to the maximum pressure for crushers in the Series 7 rule set would have put Razor's weapon over the legal limit should it have returned for that series. Strange Robot Wars merch. Now, we've all seen the pullbacks, the mini-bots, everything well known, but the Robot Wars brand was applied to some real obscurities in its time. Wash bags, curtains, spaghetti hoops, pullbacks released in only one colour, skateboard safety, bathrobes, even the reboot has first aid kits and plasters as one of its first planned merchandise items. Not that they seemingly made it to stores. Get yourself a Sir Killalot topper tumbler today.
The Steering Committee. The Steering Committee was a behind-the-scenes group of Roboteers assembled by the producers between Series 3 and 4 to get a competitor's perspective on how to improve the competition and organise seeding for the next series. Included among the group were well-known Roboteers like George Francis and Mike Onslow, alongside lesser-known competitors like Colin Offer from Axios and Ken Ginn from PC Plod. A varied bunch, for sure. Producers directed Dantopia Ooters. On Facebook in 2015, Dantopia's builder Michael Lambert was asked to share his thoughts on every robot he ever threw out of the arena. Lambert responded by discussing a supposed Ooter on Smidsy in Extreme 2 which never made the televised cut. One of the most curious comments regarded Dantopia's Ooter on Behemoth in Series 7's All-Stars tournament, to which Michael Lambert said, "I feel guilt at having put Behemoth out of the arena. That was under instruction from Mentorn, and I think it was unfair to ask me to do that to them. I even put them out where Mentorn asked me, hence the cameras were already set up for the shot." It leads the mind to wonder if there were other scenarios like this for other robots. Panic Attack Conspiracy. The run of Kim Davis and Panic Attack to the Series 2 title was certainly unexpected, but it was a heartwarming tale with the knowledge that the further Panic Attack progressed into the competition, the more Kim Davis would be able to raise for charity. Of course, this occasionally leads to the more cynical standpoint that Roboteers would lose to Panic Attack on purpose to boost its charitable efforts. Perhaps the most notable was Rex Garrod, who allegedly told Roboteers at a local fair that he deliberately allowed Panic Attack to win the Series 2 Grand Final. Who knows if there's any truth to it. World Championships rigged in UK's favour. With 3 World Championships held in Robot Wars and all 3 won by the UK, some fans cast a critical eye over their performance. Indeed, when you include the separate representatives for Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales, the first World Championship would see 8 of its 16 competitors represent the UK, and that's generously considering Kilohertz to be a Czech robot. The second World Championship would also see both the UK and the USA represented by 4 robots, in stark contrast to every other country. Meanwhile, Storm 2's victory over Supernova in the third World Championship was controversial, to say the least. You wonder if the producers ever did have an intended outcome.
Plotnicki-Thorpe legal dispute creates Robot Wars BattleBot split. The story of how a relatively small sport became divided into 2 competitions, BattleBots and Robot Wars, goes back to the legal dispute between Robot Wars creator Mark Thorpe and the head of Profile Records, Steve Plotnicki. Plotnicki was an early investor in Robot Wars, but by 1997 he found he could not reach an agreement with Thorpe on establishing their joint venture as a formal company, Robot Wars LLC. By 1998, their disputes would turn legal, with Thorpe fighting a series of lawsuits which wouldn't end until 2002. Profile would also file suits against builders Gary Klein and Carlo Bertoncini for what it felt were infringements on the Robot Wars name, a move which helped solidify the negative perception of Plotnicki, and by extension Robot Wars, now attracting huge audiences in the UK among the US robot building community. Builders would reject an appeal from Mentorn's Tom Gutteridge to attend a potential episode of Season 2 of Robot Wars to be filmed in the US. Ray Roski would initially provide Mark Thorpe with financial and legal assistance, until the threat of a lawsuit by Profile spurred him to drop out of the negotiations between Thorpe and Plotnicki and instead arrange his own event, BattleBots. US builders would flock to the new event, and although some American builders would eventually attend Robot Wars events, many of its most veteran builders would stay on their side of the Atlantic. To this day, BattleBots, now drawing competitors from across the globe, continues to be run by Trey Roski and Greg Munson, while Plotnicki remains director of Robot Wars Limited. Edgehog Dutch robot game success. You'd be forgiven for not thinking much of Edgehog based off its performances on Robot Wars. However, Edgehog appeared in the 2003 Dutch Robot Games, and it claimed second place, defeating Newt, Hard, Lizard, Toe Cutter 2, Tornado and Storm 2, before moving on to the semi-finals wherein it defeated Bigger Brother and Tsunami. It was only stopped in the championship fight by Tough as Nails. Who can imagine what would have happened if this Hedgehog had appeared in Series 6 or 7? Perhaps we were spared something terrifying. Reboot never meant to succeed. Despite all of the excitement for the news of Robot Wars finally being rebooted, the BBC's handling of the show made it seem like it was never meant to succeed in the first place. With advertising that started out small and only dimmed as the reboot went on, being constantly pushed aside for all manner of sporting events, not that the sporting events were any better to watch than the robots, mind you, being put up against absolute juggernauts like Blue Planet and seasons that were too short to really have any sort of weight, the series just really struggled to flourish. It really does seem like management wanted the decks to be stacked against Robot Wars from the very start. Glitterbomb in Series 9. Glitterbomb's failed attempt to fight in Series 9 was dogged by issues. Sporting a new design with 2 axes, Glitterbomb arrived on set for its first tech check significantly overweight, coming in at 122 kilograms. Originally scheduled to fight in a melee with Carbide, the bot would be withdrawn. By removing optional armor plating and one of Glitterbomb's axes, the bot would be brought down to 107 kilograms, which was well within the weight limit. However, by this point, the bot was moved onto the reserve list and ultimately wouldn't compete. Per team captain James Barker, upon inspection in the workshop, it was discovered that Glitterbomb's pneumatic components had been filled with oil due to oversights during testing prior to filming. And if this had been drained, the bot would have been in within the 110 kilogram weight limit. Ultimately, this version of Glitterbomb would not compete on the show, and it has yet to be seen in combat in any live events. Series 7 never rated in Channel 5's top 30 programs. While Robot Wars was a ratings juggernaut in its prime, it's no exaggeration to say that, for a multitude of reasons, the show bombed upon moving to Channel 5, to the point that no episode was ever rated in the top 30 programs for that week. From the time slot being moved around to a lot of the fan favourite All-Stars just not being there, it's sadly understandable that interest was lost, and it's no doubt that such poor ratings led to the show's ultimate cancellation. House Robots' real weight. The House Robots were designed to be the big bad enforcers of the show, and were all listed as being heavier than the competitors. However, they were in fact significantly heavier than the show let on. As revealed by Chris Reynolds in a 2020 interview with Jamie McHarg, Shunt, listed at 105 kilograms, actually weighed in at more than double that at 220 kilograms. Bash was actually 300 kilograms rather than the 220 kilograms we were told, and Sir Killalot, instead of weighing 280 kilograms, actually weighed 520 kilograms. Surprisingly, Mr. Psycho was 750 kilograms, a relatively small increase compared to the 600 kilograms listed on air. Growler, on the other hand, is the only known robot that was actually lighter than the show suggested, coming in at 375 kilograms rather than the 420 kilograms listed on the show. It's not known why the audience were given these fabricated weights, but it does shed a little doubt on some of the other things the material told us about them. Maybe Dead Metal wasn't a battle robot from the future after all. Robot Wars Arena destroyed after show. After filming for the original series ended, the arena, quite predictably, fell into disuse in the RAF Newton Studios. A year later, in 2005, the studios were sold to new owners and the arena was scrapped for a measly £250, despite the arena costing £11,000 to build. It was then that a company named Robot Arenas Limited stepped in, attempting to sue the owners for the studios for £300,000, claiming that they had ownership of the arena and had bought it prior to it being scrapped with the intention of using it in a World Championship event. They lost the lawsuit, as the court ruled that the owners of the studio had acted accordingly, and had actually contacted Robot Arenas Limited but didn't hear back from them. As a final twist to the heart, the court judge was quoted as saying that the arena only had scrap value anyway.
Clarkson nearly killed on set. In a 2008 blog post, Mentorn founder Tom Gutteridge revealed that tragedy almost plagued the filming of Series 1. During the second day of filming, Dead Metal was cutting into a defeated machine. Suddenly, his disc broke apart, flew into the air at more than 200 miles an hour, and ended up being embedded in a concrete wall. In front of said concrete wall was then Robot Wars host and future Producer Punch and Top Gear host Jeremy Clarkson. It was estimated that the disc was just 2 meters above Clarkson's skull and would have instantly decapitated him if the trajectory was different. Fortunately, Clarkson was unharmed and still lives to this day. The blog also states that a recording of the incident actually exists, although obviously it hasn't been released to the public in any form. Series 2 Safety Breaches. On Griffon's website, Team Captain Oliver Steeples provided brief biographies and thoughts on every Series 1 and 2 machine that competed. He highlighted 2 concerning incidents that plagued filming for Series 2. Most notably, Heat F Heat finalist Disruptor lacked both safety circuits nor any means of a main on/off switch. Consequently, the robot was always live during filming, and attempting to deactivate it by touching the microswitches would have resulted in a serious health and safety incident. Fortunately, Disruptor was not involved in any accidents during filming. The same could not be said for semi-finalist Hardvark. According to Steeples in his entry for that machine, during the recording of the preview roll, Hardvark somewhat ended up reversing off the ledge. It ended up injuring a safety advisor, although it can be said based on the lack of information regarding the incident that he or she likely suffered no lasting damage. The landing also meant emergency work had to be conducted on Hardvark by its Team 2. Series 3 Roadkill Incident. During filming for the subsequent series, a more serious accident occurred. The facts of what transpired have been murky thanks to conflicting reports on the matter, as well as a cover-up from producers involved. However, a narrative has been conjured up. A robot armed with spikes was being transported into the arena when it suddenly activated when a cheaply made rotary key switch broke. This, combined with radio control interference throughout Series 3, caused it to suddenly start moving, where it slammed into the ankle of Assistant Director Alex Rofelia, dragging him across the arena. He was injured and taken to hospital, but fortunately fully recovered, although he never actually worked for Robot Wars again. Filming was delayed for a few days following the incident, and when it resumed, time constraints forced the cancellation of various side events, including but not limited to Sumo, Tag Team Terror, grudge matches, Lightweight Championship, and a full middleweight competition that was limited to just a single melee in the end. Team Cassius's Rex Goward also retired in protest over lax safety standards, although thankfully safety would greatly improve from Series 4 onwards. The identity of the robot was originally claimed to have been War Pandemonium, sequel to Pandemonium, but this was debunked following a Robot Wars wiki investigation in late 2018. The culprit is now deemed to have been a machine called Roadkill, described as hedgehog-like and armed with multiple spikes. Although without any images, footage or official confirmation, its identity has been rather hard to verify. More on what happened during filming can be found by reading the Series 3 controversy article on the Robot Wars wiki, and 2 Robot Wars wiki podcasts documenting the controversies, links in the description. Series 2 Lightweight fight almost ends in a wheel fight. The Series 2 Lightweight Championship is obscure in the grand scheme of things. Only a few seconds of battle was transmitted for television, and very little is known about most of the competitors. What is known is that following the fight's end, with 5 robots remaining somewhat mobile, a voice from above, most likely from Stuart McDonald, requested that the machines move about a bit to help out with the judge's decision. According to the Slippery Storner team's website, driver Charlie Dale Staples spun Slippery Storner around and had it zip across the arena. This was enough for the machine to win the championship. What happened next remains up to speculation. According to the website, a competitor became offended at Storner's movements, resulting in a brief push and shove with Charlie post-battle. Whether the website meant mere unsporting behaviour where a driver decided to have the machine attack Slippery Storner post-battle, or worse, an actual scuffle between Charlie and a rival team member, remains unknown. Either way, a robotic or human post-battle scuffle is not within the spirit of robot combat, and such incidents are thankfully rare within the sport. Mentor rejected Comedy Central. In a 2012 Robot Wars wiki interview, Tom Gutteridge revealed that Comedy Central had approached Mentor for a spin-off show in the United States. Indeed, Bill Hillary was then head of the company, and was even part of the Channel 4 board that ultimately decided against broadcasting Robot Wars prior to the BBC Two deal. Hillary wanted the show on Channel 4, and felt that it could be a fit for Comedy Central. There was one catch: the show would need to be comedic in nature. Gutteridge declined, stating that Robot Wars was not a comedy show. The decision almost backfired for Mentorn. Comedy Central immediately snapped up BattleBots. As a result, that show had a monopoly on US robot combat. Robot Wars, meanwhile, was rejected by both MTV and Discovery during the same time period. However, TNN executives were interested in the show upon watching an MTV pilot, and commissioned a few episodes for a show called Robot Wars Extreme Warriors. The rest, as they say, is history. Robot Wars Cartoon. By January 2002, Robot Wars was reaching its worldwide popularity peak. According to an article from The Guardian back in the day, the show had generated more than £100 million selling television rights and merchandise globally, with children being an especially lucrative market segment. It perhaps comes as no surprise then that Mentor began to unveil plans for an animated series of the show to further push into the children's market. Not much is known about this cartoon. According to Gearheads, it would have featured the house robots in a prominent role. Meanwhile, The Guardian stated that the animated show would be made over 2 years and would be broadcast from 2004 to 2005. Alas, the cancellation of the main show beforehand prompted the scrapping of the cartoon. Whether any work was made on the cartoon prior to cancellation ultimately remains unconfirmed. Robot Wars' late 2000s to early 2010s revival attempts. The period from 2004 to 2016 certainly marked a dark period for not only Robot Wars, but for robot combat as a whole. That said, the hiatus could have been much shorter if one of the big TV channels supported a revival back in the late 2000s and early 2010s. During a court case concerning the Robot Wars trademark, Tom Gutteridge revealed he had spoken with Sky Television commissioning editors regarding a revival in early 2008. In the early 2010s, he also spoke with representatives from BBC 2 and 3, as well as ITV 1 and 4. It appears the ITV 1 discussion proved the most productive, with discussions with then controller Adam McDonald suggesting the show could have been produced for early Sunday evenings. Unfortunately, negotiations fell short, as did a later Channel 4 pitch. Despite Gutteridge believing that the period between 2010 to 2013 would be suitable for a revival, it of course would not be until 2016 where Robot Wars finally returned to television screen.
Tilford MTV incident. Morgan Tilford was a member of the popular Mauler team. In Brad Stone's book Gearheads, he documents a serious incident resulting from the team's attendance of the filming of the MTV pilot. Morgan Tilford had a crucial set of college exams set for the week after taping, and was said to be flown immediately back to California by Mentor. However, in what proved to be a common experience for attendees of the filming, the Tilford family found that the transatlantic flight back to San Jose included on their travel itineraries was a mistake, and they wouldn't be flown back to the States for another 2 days. Morgan Tilford allegedly did not sleep for the remainder of the trip, and when they got back to California he was speaking in disjointed phrases, missing one exam and failing another, an oral exam on robot combat where he spoke for too long and scared everyone, in his own words. Tilford would ultimately be hospitalised and diagnosed with bipolar disorder, a mental illness often manifesting itself during a stressful event, and after running from the doctor's office he would be committed to the psychiatric ward of Stanford Hospital. Dutch Robot Wars delayed by Iraq War. Fans of UK Robot Wars are all too familiar with seeing episodes delayed for other programming. However, Dutch fans awaiting Heat B of Series 2 of Dutch Robot Wars had to wait months, all due to a much realer kind of combat. Heat B was scheduled to air on March 17, 2003. However, the outbreak of the Iraq War in late March led the channel BNN, home of the Dutch Wars, to postpone its airing in favour of coverage of the invasion. The series wouldn't return to air until late June, with rebroadcasts of the first episode. A planned airing of Heat B on June 30th would be rescheduled due to the breaking news of Prince Johan Frieso's engagement to Mabel Visser-Smit. It won't be until July 7th, over 3 months since its intended air date, that Dutch fans could finally see Heat B. Unknown competitors. Through the work of dedicated fans, we now know an incredible amount of information about not just those bots that took part in Robot Wars, but even those that failed to qualify, or even just sent off an application. However, there are still some, even bots who actually participated in official events, who we don't know the most fundamental information about, their names. The most famous example of this is the unidentified competitor in Series 2's lightweight competition. We're lucky to even know of this bot's existence. It didn't appear in the show's second song edit of the battle, nor was it noted in the Slippery Strana captain's count of the battle. Only an image in the technical manual confirms it participated. It's thought the bot may be named Funk, but this cannot be confirmed. This is not the only example. There's the German Crusherbot which withdrew from the first German wars, which may or may not be via a confirmed withdrawal from the series of hydraulic weaponry. These are but two of the Ranger bots that we know applied and may have even fought in qualifiers, but we simply don't know anything else about them. Maybe the answer for these is waiting on a forgotten webpage somewhere, but for now, they remain a mystery. Steel Avenger owner tried to assassinate Trump. After the cancellation of Robot Wars, Steel Avenger would spend much of its postal life retired or fighting in special VIP contests. However, rather infamously, the bot would be sold to Michael Sanford in 2011. Michael Sanford, an emotionally troubled young man from Surrey, was active in buying numerous machines from the show, although, per John Finlay who helped him to buy many of these, he did not know how to properly maintain them. Sanford would make international headlines in June 2016 when he attempted to assassinate Republican presidential nominee and later 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump. At a political rally in Las Vegas, Sanford would attempt to grab a police officer's handgun with the intention of turning it on Trump. The resulting media coverage was easily among the most bizarre to reference to show, with Sanford labelled a Robot Wars geek and images of him with Steel Avenger featured in outlets such as The Mirror and The Guardian. As of recording, Steel Avenger remains in possession of John Finlay. As for Michael Sanford, he was released from prison and deported to the UK in 2017, where he likely still resides. Nudity in AOD files. Cases of strange hidden content in the files of video games, such as the images of a real-life hostage crisis in a Mario Kart game, abound. But Robot Wars Arena of Destruction hosts a particularly surprising example. Within prototype builds of the PC edition, a file can be found in the graphics folder by the innocuous name of ad3.tga, which contained a decidedly un-PG image. Quite what the relevance of Sexy Hula Girl was to Robot Wars, who can say, but it was likely just an inside joke for developers. Have you hugged your robot today? In the book Gearheads, in its image section, one comes across an image of Team Razor team member Vinny Budd cuddled up in bed with his team's fearsome bot, captioned, "Have you hugged your robot today?" A strange concept for an image, no doubt, but a charming one. This image was part of a set taken by Team Razor. In the other images, we can see "Ah!" Tornado actually cheated. At the top of this iceberg, we detailed controversy surrounding Tornado's anti-Razor device in the Series 6 Grand Final against Razor. We discussed how, at least according to the rules, the device was perfectly legal, and the idea that Tornado cheated reflected ignorance of this fact. But that's not the whole story. It goes far deeper than that. For the truth is, Tornado did actually cheat, and this can be proven by